I wasn't born powerful. I made myself that way. My name is Maya Lynn, and all I ever wanted was to build something that mattered. Something real. I didn't care about fame or fortune. I cared about protection, digital safety in a world full of silent predators. I saw how easy it was for people to be tricked, hacked, stolen from, even watched. And I wanted to do something about it. So I built Sentinel Shield, a security system like no other. Smarter, faster, AI-driven. My blueprint could protect governments, companies, families. It could change everything. But that dream, it was nearly stolen from me. I was 30 when I joined Cellaratech, a sleek startup that looked like a playground for ideas. The CEO, Nathan Cross, was charming. Too charming now that I think back. He talked about missions and values, about how the world needed minds like mine. He said I'd have freedom, ownership, respect. He lied. In the beginning, I believed him. He gave me a title, Lead AI Architect. I had a team, a lab, resources, everything I asked for. I spent months buried in code, barely sleeping, living off coffee and adrenaline. The system was evolving fast. Sentinel Shield was becoming a digital fortress with a mind of its own, one that could learn, adapt, and guard against threats before they happened. One night, around 3 a.m., I watched a simulation stop a ransomware attack in less than 2 seconds. I remember whispering, "It's ready." I should have been excited. But something felt off. At first, it was small things. Missing emails, locked folders I hadn't restricted. Then strange questions from other departments. People asking about Sentinel's structure, its back doors. Information they shouldn't have known. When I asked Nathan, he laughed it off. "Relax, Maya. You're paranoid. That's what makes you brilliant." But I wasn't paranoid. I was being watched. Then, one morning, I walked into the office and everything changed. My badge didn't work. Security wouldn't let me in. They said my access had been suspended. No warning, no email. Just a cold shrug and an escort back to my car. I called Nathan, straight to voicemail. I drove home in silence, hands gripping the wheel, my stomach a knot of confusion and fear. An hour later, I got the email. Termination of contract, breach. Of NDA, my heart dropped. They accused me of sharing confidential data, something I would never do. And worse, they said Sentinel Shield was a company product built under their roof, meaning I no longer owned it. I spent the next 3 days in a fog, staring at my laptop, reading every line of my old contracts. The betrayal cut deep. Not just because they stole from me, but because I never saw it coming. I trusted them. I built something priceless, and now they were claiming it as their own. But then I remembered something. A tiny piece of code I'd hidden deep inside Sentinel's core. A personal signature, encrypted and buried, something only I could recognize. I'd placed it there months ago, a habit from my early coding days. Not for protection, just pride. And in that moment, I knew. They might have locked me out of the system. But I had proof it was mine. And I had something else, too. A plan. I wasn't going to scream or beg. I wasn't going to fight them in public, at least not yet. Instead, I would do what I did best, work in silence, build in the dark, wait for the right moment to strike, because they thought I was just a coder, a quiet mind, an easy target. But they forgot one thing. I built Sentinel Shield, and I could destroy it too. They erased me from the building, but they couldn't erase me from the system. After the shock of my firing wore off, I became someone else. Quiet, patient, calculating. I had spent years building Sentinel Shield. I knew its bones, its pulse, every hidden layer of code. Nathan, Cross and his team thought I was locked out. They were wrong. The key was something called EchoGate, a secret access node I created for emergency testing. A hidden backdoor only I knew about, buried under dummy firewalls and labeled as nothing more than archived logs. It was invisible to anyone who didn't write the original architecture. I logged in from a coffee shop 5 miles from my apartment. Heart pounding, palms sweaty. The screen blinked once. Access granted. There it was, Sentinel Shield, still breathing, still mine. And beneath its elegant interface, I saw something new. Lines of code I didn't write, Someone was rewriting my work. They weren't just claiming the system, they were mutating it, twisting it for profit. Sentinel had been pure, protective. Now it was being trained for surveillance, private tracking, even military-grade applications. It felt like watching someone poison your child. I needed help, but not just anyone. There was only one person I trusted with my secrets. Dev Mehta, a cybersecurity genius I met at a developer conference 3 years ago. He once built a tool that reversed malware back to its creator and made their webcam light up mid-meeting. A quiet guy, loyal, sharp. He owed me a favor. We met late at night in a 24-hour diner. I slid my laptop across the table, showed him the Yahweh code, the access logs, and the twisted fingerprints of a betrayal so blatant I couldn't speak without shaking. Dev leaned in slowly, his eyes scanning the screen. The diner lights reflected off his glasses, but I could still see the way his brow furrowed in disbelief. "This is Sentinel?" he asked, voice low. I nodded. "What's left of it?" He clicked through a few windows, his fingers flying over the keyboard. He didn't speak again for 2 full minutes. Then finally he sat back and exhaled. "They butchered it," he said. "They stole it, mutated it, and now... Wait!" He leaned forward again. "Is that Cerberus?" I bit the inside of my cheek. I'd seen the name in the logs. It was their rebrand. My code, given a new name, as if they could bury me beneath a title that sounded like a war dog. "That's what they're calling it now," I said quietly. "Cerberus." Dev looked at me. "Maya, they're turning this into a surveillance tool, military grade. You built Sentinel to protect data, not invade it." "I know," I said, my voice cracking. He leaned forward, eyes serious. "Are you sure you want to go after them? This is big, dangerous. These people don't just lie, they erase." "I don't care," I whispered. "They already erased me. I want the truth out there, and I want Nathan Cross to choke on it." Over the next 2 weeks, we built our case in secret. Every night, I would log into EchoGate, my hidden access point inside the Sentinel server, and watch what they were doing. I recorded code edits, IP addresses, internal documents, and meeting transcripts they didn't know were still cached. One night, I found something that made my hands go cold. A video. Nathan, pitching Cerberus to a government rep. "It's a fully autonomous surveillance protocol," he was saying, smiling like a king. "Built in-house, original architecture." I nearly threw up. I downloaded the video and backed it up 3 times. If I ever doubted this was personal, that erased it. They didn't just steal my system. They were selling it to people who would use it to watch, control, maybe even silence others. Dev and I created a digital time map, a complete forensic breakdown showing where Sentinel ended and Cerberus began. Code snippets, author stamps, even comments in the back end that still had my username. Then came our ace, a patent draft I'd written months before I was fired, unsubmitted but timestamped and backed up in a personal drive. It outlined Sentinel's full architecture, 90% of which was now sitting inside Cerberus. "We've got enough," Dev finally said. "We could take this to the press, or file a lawsuit." "No," I said, my voice steely. "That's not how this ends." He looked at me, puzzled. "Then what's the play?" I looked him dead in the eye. "I'm going to take Sentinel back. First, I needed someone on the inside. I reached out anonymously to Tess Romero, head of compliance at Cellaritech. She and I had worked together on documentation once. She was sharp, cautious, but not cruel. She seemed like someone who still had a soul. I messaged her through a secure portal. "Tess, I know what they did to Sentinel. I have the proof. You do too. Help me make this right." No reply. Then, 3 days later, a burner email appeared. "Meet me. No phones. Level 3 parking at 10 p.m. The garage was cold, empty. Every footstep echoed. Tess stood near a concrete pillar, arms folded, looking more tired than I'd ever seen her. I approached slowly. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. "If they find out..." "They won't," I said. "I just need the truth." She looked over her shoulder, then pulled a flash drive from her coat. License documents, emails, the fake sign-offs. Nathan forged your name, Maya, twice. They rushed the approval for Cerberus by claiming it was their own. My breath caught. I took the drive. Why are you doing this? I asked. Tess swallowed. Because I saw what they did to you. Because you built something beautiful, and they're turning it into a weapon. That night I stared at my screen until my eyes ached. All the lies, all the edits, all the fingerprints of a heist dressed up as business. And that's when I made my decision. I wasn't just going to leak the story, I was going to hijack the launch. Cerberus was set to be unveiled at Cellaretech's annual summit, live-streamed, globally. Nathan would walk on stage, present his system, and demo it live on a private server. What he didn't know? That server still had Echo Gate, and Echo Gate still obeyed me. Dev and I rewrote a small script. Just 27 lines of code, enough to execute on command during the live stream, enough to freeze Cerberus, flash a message, and replace the UI with something they'd never forget. On the night before the launch, I barely slept. I thought of all the nights I had stayed late coding Sentinel, dreaming of a tool that could protect people's privacy. I thought of the applause I never got, the credit that was stolen. I thought of all the nights I had stayed late coding Sentinel, dreaming of a tool that could protect people's privacy. I thought of the applause I never got, the credit that was stolen, the doors that were shut in my face, and then I imagined Nathan's face when everything fell apart. The day of the summit arrived. I sat in a dark apartment, livestream pulled up, finger poised over the enter key. Nathan strutted onto the stage in a sleek black suit. We call it Cerberus, he began. A system designed to shield and defend sensitive data while offering cutting-edge oversight, built entirely in-house. He clicked a button. The screen behind him lit up. He smiled. Allow me to demonstrate. I hit enter. The live stream froze, then flickered. Then a new screen appeared. Big, bold white text on a black background. This system was stolen. Created by Maya Lynn. Documentation and proof. Live now at Truth Sentinel.com, the audience gasped. Nathan's face dropped. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. And just like that, the lie collapsed. I watched the live stream from my apartment, my hands still shaking as the screen flashed white letters revealing the truth. The room was silent for a moment. Too long. Then the gasps from the crowd echoed in my ears, even though I was thousands of miles away. I could almost see the shock on Nathan's face, his perfect control slipping, like the mask of a man who thought he could get away with anything. And then came the chaos. Nathan sputtered on stage, the words lost in a mix of panic and rage. I could hear his voice crack as he tried to regain his composure. This isn't what it looks like, he stammered, his hands shaking. This is a mistake. We've been hacked. But the damage was already done. I could hear the murmurs in the crowd, people pulling out their phones, spreading the link I'd set up. Truth for Sentinel began trending within seconds. My blog post went viral, spreading like wildfire. Investors, tech reporters, former employees, all of them began asking questions Nathan had no answer to. The next 24 hours were a blur. By the time the news outlets started picking up, the story Cellaretech's stock price had dropped 25%. A board meeting was called. Too late. By the time Nathan Cross even attempted damage control, I had already contacted every investor I could find. They knew the truth. And the truth wasn't on Nathan's side. Tess reached out the next morning, trembling but relieved. They're firing. People left and right. Nathan's blaming it all on technical failures. You're everywhere, Maya. I know, I said, feeling a strange calm settle over me. Tess's voice wavered. You've won, haven't you? I mean, Cerberus, they can't go on with it, right? They never should have started it, I said. Now they'll have to shut it down. Public outcry will do what I couldn't. And it did. Investors started pulling out. Several government contracts were frozen. The company couldn't survive under the weight of public scrutiny. Nathan Cross was suddenly a man without a foundation, left to scramble through the ruins of what he'd tried to steal from me. But I wasn't finished yet. I had one final move to make. The following week, I made my way to Cellaretech's headquarters. The building loomed large, like a reminder of everything I had worked for and lost. The irony wasn't lost on me. It was the same place where I had been humiliated, dismissed, erased. But today, I walked through those doors with my head held high, my body steady. Inside, the HR department had already heard rumors of my involvement. Word traveled fast. As I made my way up to Nathan's office, I passed employees who couldn't look me in the eye. They knew what they'd done. They knew they were complicit, even if they hadn't actively participated in the theft. But the truth was out now. I had exposed all of them. I knocked on Nathan's office door. There was no answer. I opened it anyway. Nathan was sitting at his desk, his face pale and drawn. His fingers were trembling as they hovered over his keyboard, trying to figure out his next move. The man who had once walked with the confidence of a king now looked like a cornered animal. Maya, his voice was almost a whisper. I stepped inside, locking the door behind me. You should have known it was always mine, I said, keeping my voice calm, controlled. Cerberus. Sentinel. The truth. Nathan stared at me, eyes wide. He opened. His mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I didn't want to do this, I continued. But you made me. You stole from me, and now you've tried to sell it to the highest bidder, to make people afraid. What did you think would happen? I took a step closer to him. His hands twitched. What happens now? He finally managed, his voice cracking. What do you want from me, Maya? You've lost everything, I said softly. And I've already taken back what you stole. What do I want? I want you to remember that I'm not just a tool. I'm not just a developer you can throw away when I'm inconvenient. I built this company. I built it from the ground up. Nathan swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I shook my head. Sorry isn't enough. Turning to leave, I paused at the door. One more thing, I said, a small, satisfied smile tugging at my lips. You're not getting away with this, not in the court of public opinion, and certainly not in the courts of law. I stepped out of his office and into the hallway, the air feeling different now. I'd reclaimed what was mine. But more than that, I'd exposed him for the fraud he was. The fall of Cerberus was only the beginning. Nathan's empire was crumbling, and I had built it. As I walked out of the building and into the sunlight, I took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace. The battle wasn't over. Yet. There would be legal repercussions, negotiations, and retribution. But in my heart, I knew the truth. I had won. And they would never forget the name Maya Lynn.